Hey everyone, welcome back to another sketchbook tour. Why do we have a sketchbook as artists? Because we want to get our ideas out. We want to think, we want to be creative and want to see what's inside of us, right? It's kind of like a mirror to our own personality, I find. Before we scroll further, got this ask after the last video. This is also a THU covered sketchbook. I bought this on the THU event, and this is the 2013 edition of the THU sketchbook. Why do we have sketchbooks? Well, I guess it's a important way to show what is inside of us, right? And what's up with our personality and our thoughts and what has an influence on us, which I think is really a good and interesting thing. Also, I feel like a sketchbook in general is something very, very personal. The better you get and the better you can communicate what's inside of you, the more personal it becomes. I usually use these mechanical pencils here. Also, I will put the links for all the tools in the description. Thumbnails from imagination. This is when I saw a dead goat on hike with my dad in Spain. These are basically drawings from the hike in Spain when we were on the mountain. This one was when I was in Africa, in Teresia, in Mozambique, a beautiful place near the ocean where my girlfriend and we stayed for almost 3 weeks. I think this is also a good chance to answer some of the Instagram questions here. So I got a question by YoYo ID. Do you focus on anything special on any given days, like you do dedicated days to anatomy or others? I like to focus, especially when it comes to a theme which I feel like that I'm repeating. This is, for example, the theme Rifleman. So if you go on Pinterest and you just type in Rifleman, you get a bunch of really cool images. And for this specific one, I just focused here on stylization, actually. So sometimes, and this is what you can do as a sketchbook idea or as a creative idea, take a reference and look at it and think about how can you push the shapes. I pushed all the shapes, the clothing. I made everything bigger on purpose. It's more impressive. And then I focused also on specific shapes. I made the background and everything else I made more squarey or more triangular, so it has a bigger shape contrast. People I drew at the airport with pencil, I felt very uncomfortable that day. And this was actually one of the pilots. He was super young. Started also, trying to do more ink. When I was at THU after I got inspired. I also talked about that in the last sketchbook video. But these drawings here were actually made before THU, so with pencil, when my little nephew Luis was here. I spent a day with him, really nice day, and we always end up like drawing. And he wanted me to draw him as a cowboy while telling me what I should draw. So it was super challenging because he was like, also he speaks French, he only speaks French, and my French is not that high level. We need a bit of time to communicate. And he was actually telling me what to draw, which was interesting. This one I drew after when I saw I had more space. So I came back to the sketchbook and drew a little bit of stuff in here. I felt like he was like a pimp, on telling me what to draw. So I drew him from imagination the next day. Yeah, I guess one of my most favorite topics, cowboys, pirates. I don't know what it's about. If it's the freedom or if it's the emotional connection through all the movies of my childhood. But definitely influenced by Mobius in terms of like simplification stuff, but also like pushing shapes. Trying that with ink as well. This also here was on the hike with my father in Spain on a mountain which is called Steile Zahn. Who knows German, please? Let the other knows what that means. I drew this one in Africa when we were in Teresia. I got heavily inspired by all the seashells laying around at the ocean. We didn't have Wi-Fi there, or almost no Wi-Fi, and we basically spent all day just laying around, eating, going to the beach. There were no people, we could walk for kilometers, there was no one. And there were like seashells, and I just got inspired by that. So I thought about a sea devil. And I think also I saw a sculpt of someone on Pinterest, so it was a combination of this. This was from imagination purely. To be honest, this whole Instagram reel thing that you have to do reels and all that stuff is really stressing me out these days. And also back then, because I felt like, okay, I need to draw an image every day in my sketchbook to film it and then post it, that I get more views, because I don't know why we do that, why we human beings are that way, that we think that we have to do that. I like the idea I had here, but I wish the intention of the drawing would be different, and I'm super honest here, like I did it to do my daily Instagram post, which I feel is the wrong intention to make art. Military guy, just with pen. You see, it's really hard for me. I started trying to control the medium. It was really in the beginning of starting with ink and stuff, not very easy. Here again, the daily Instagram thing, which I thought is necessary to do. Wrong intention. Again, I had an idea, even though the idea I find kind of funny, like the situation where you as a player come to an area where a guy is basically like guarding the area, and he's like offering you to either fight with him or to drink. But I wanted to indicate, okay, there's some weird mushrooms, so you know, like when you drink, there's definitely nothing good happen to you. He will definitely find a way to rob you. This is by Luis, so he signed it also. I find it awesome when my nephews and niece draw in my sketchbook. I love these drawings just for the purity. Again, there was the day when Luis was here because I told him, okay, let's draw something together because I didn't want to draw separately. So he started with this stuff, and then I asked him, okay, what should we do about it? And he's like, yeah, just add a giant dragon which looks like a lizard with a beard smoking. And I'm like, what's that information? How can I do that? So I basically made a blued up dragon kind of thing. He got really into Vikings, so he like, yeah, can you draw Vikings? And they need to fight, and then blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And it got really dark at some point. I'm like, okay, I think we should play some games now. From imagination, both from imagination. Sometimes I do, there's also a sketchbook idea I can recommend, is writing out keywords you can technically combine. You know, just if you have no idea of, you want to start with a theme, or you want to start from imagination, and you have no real idea what you want to do, draw out just random keywords and then think about how can you combine these. Take 2, take 3. This is something I also do, and I can recommend this if you want to learn how to do costume designs or character design costumes for concept art or for your own IP, for your own fantasy idea. And it's a really fun approach I also like to teach. For this, I recommend this book. It's called The Costume History. It's basically tons of different areas from different time zones where they portrayed what they were. So what clothing did they had? What weapons do they used? What were the shapes of the crowns? You have so many different informations in here. And what I would do, I would basically, and you can take a random page, you know, you can take whatever you want. Go in there, and then let's say you take this one, and then you draw it, but you not copy the information. You use it and you start to push shape. So you try to, for example, this looks like a triangle, right? So how about we make this more round? How about we make this more square? How would it look? And then you just start to draw it out, you know? And this is a very fun way to practice this and getting also a feeling for costume design in a first sense. So I can definitely recommend this book. This is really a little treasure box. I will put an Amazon link in the description if you want to buy it. I think it's pretty cheap, so definitely try to get this. If I work in games and movies over years, sometimes you have these random impulses because you're so trained on coming up with ideas. I just have these ideas for weird flying vehicles, and then I'm thinking about, okay, how do they start? How do they land? And then, I don't know, I write stuff down about the airflow, and then I research more. And I mean, this is the beauty of being a concept artist. Here also doing designs for a city which is made out of shipwrecks, you know, like sailing ships. And then I do these designs, and I'm trying to push shape and thinking about, okay, how could this look? And the sketchbook is the most safest place and the most safest area to explore this. Here I had the idea for a city which is basically inspired by Art Deco, 1920s cars, but it is in the city. And I do this sketch and I really liked it, and I think this is definitely an idea I want to come back in the future. And here, I don't know, random ass drawing of this girl from Arcane, forgot the name. We have more drawings from Louis, the master. I love it how he draws sharks. And I think this is from a game, I don't know the game. More stuff from imagination. We had a workshop at Voga, at my old game company, with Jama Jaburev. I'm sorry, Jama, if I butcher your name. He probably not see this video, but I always butcher his last name. Jama is a really cool dude, he's so inspirational, so amazing. He does so much amazing work, and he gave us a pretty cool demonstration, but also we had a workshop with him where he tested at that time new Blender tools, which was very informative. I really liked it. I got really a lot out of this. This was in Africa. Yeah, I remember. This was in Africa. So yeah, seeing seashells everywhere. Then they had these self-built rooftops houses, and I just wanted to understand how they build and then just basically draw this out. And this information is precious to me because I can make a concept for a game out of this. Just out of a simple mechanic, I can definitely do something out of this. This is from imagination. This is, I think, I think this was partially based on a reference. And what I did with this, and I can blend it in here, I really liked the pose and the idea. So I had the idea for an arcane mage after seeing Arcane, I think. And then I did a digital sketch as well. I will blend it in here. And and I did a couple more arcane characters actually. Like just imagination, like imagining how they could be or where they could be located. But the series was really cool. This is also all from imagination. More stuff from imagination. I don't know why. I'm sorry. Or I'm not sorry actually. But yeah, more poses. This was work actually. This was for a scene in the game at June's Journey when I was still at VUCA. Sometimes when we basically do these scenes, these environment scenes. I was working in the environment department, and sometimes when I really think about an idea for a thumbnail, so we usually do the thumbnail process, so you do the iteration, and sometimes I like to do them in pencil, just thinking about the camera angle. Because this drawing takes me like 2 minutes and it's very quick, and I understand, okay, this could work to communicate the idea the writer had behind. I think this is based on a Kim Young-ji drawing, because I was in Portugal that day, and being around this guy, man, it's just insanely inspirational. And I think I copied one of his drawing and then I tried to draw it with my own style. Also looking at his shading practices and stuff. I don't know if you have seen The Fifth Element. It's one of my most favorite movies. And there's one scene where Lilo, the main character, is dropping her clothes off to change when the guy brings her new clothes. The guys, they're like turning around very quick because she basically doesn't give a damn if anyone sees her naked. And I found that a very funny and intrinsic scene, so I tried to draw it in my own style, but basically them arguing with her and telling her she cannot drop this off, and she's just like, she basically got printed out of a cell. And she just starts to relearn everything. And I'm thinking like she's just realizing, well, she got this amazing body of hers. Ink drawings from imagination. I think I didn't draw this. I think I drew this one on THU, or I drew all these on THU here. This one isn't by me. I think this might be Josh, one out of my mentees. For the people who don't know, I'm a teacher also. I have a mentorship program where I teach people in one-on-one sessions, and I met one of my mentees there for the first time. Josh, he's amazing, such a cool guy, and I think he drew this one. Yeah, this was also on THU. I like to think about a theme in that case, or about a story of people, characters interacting in a certain environment, almost like a comic book cover, you know, where you basically put them and layer them to tell a story. And this is something I really like about comic book covers, like how much story they can tell. Here also, after seeing Julian's drawings, definitely check out Julian. I also did a sketchbook video with him. He's at Riot, and he does these really crazy shape where he pushes the shape of the characters he's drawing always constantly, and he's so good with this, and it really inspired me to also push this, like simple stuff, like everything you make is a triangle basically. This was also at THU, just Kim Young-ji inspired, then from imagination. This was actually a plein air drawing. There was the opportunity to go out with Jesper Ising in the morning to go for plein air. That was fun. Everyone had paint. I was one of the few people who didn't have paint basically. So I took my pencil and I just penciled this plein air scene, and we had a really great view. but also the light conditions were changing very quick. So you had to be very fast. So I tried to capture that. Oh, I don't want to look at this. This is basically the attempt of, so folks, if you also want to try ink and want to get better with ink and say like, okay, I don't do pencil anymore, I just go for ink, I would recommend don't jump into brush pen right away, because starting with ink and to pre-think, but also starting with brush pen right away is the double amount of a challenge. When you want to do small little details, if you press a little bit too much, you get a thick line, and it's so easy and so unforgiving, and it's so easy to mess up your drawing. Yeah, just doodles. Yeah, that's actually me in my hotel room at THU. When you're around Kim Young-ji and all the Super Annie crew, then you're so inspired by what they do. I don't know, it just had the effect on me, and then I really was like, okay, I also want to draw from imagination now. This was at the airport in Portugal, so people standing there. I was waiting for my girlfriend, spent a week having a vacation there, which was amazing. And I was waiting for her at the airport, and there were people standing, and I had to wait her. Perfect opportunity to practice ink. This is in Lisbon. So we were standing there, I drew this on site, and then I drew also these people. There were a lot of people, which was a challenge because it was really the first steps into only using ink and to not erase. So yeah, if you have like trouble to getting motivated or inspiring yourself to draw, just change your environment and change also your routine. So we didn't have breakfast in our hotel, so we always went out for breakfast. We really like to do that. And always take my sketchbook with me. Thinking about one character and portraying this character in different scenarios, basically imagining this character. Oh, I remember this. I had a very bad day that day. You know, sometimes, I don't know, how's it for you folks? I feel like since I started with art, I'm more self-reflected, which is good, I guess. But I also realize I have much more of these moody days where I'm like, I call them fuck off days. So just leave me alone. There's actually no real reason why I'm super grumpy in that day, just being a human being. So we traveled around from Lisbon to Porto with a car, and then from Porto to Lagos. And on the way from Porto to Lagos, we got really sick. We spent most of the time inside, unfortunately. So I went out because I felt a bit better. I said to my girlfriend, okay, I'll get us some food. And I went to an Italian place. They were like 8 waiters, and it wasn't really full. And they were like super like loud and screaming, and it was super entertaining. So I was just sitting there while waiting for the food, and I started to draw. And there was this one guy standing, and they all had this uniform. And then I was drawing people on the back and everything. But then the food actually came pretty fast, so I didn't have time to continue with the drawing. Folks, if you don't know what to draw, if you feel uninspired, go out. Go outside. Take always your sketchbook with you. I always carry these little sketchbooks everywhere with me. If it's a small one, if it's a big one. I always have a sketchbook. You see my hand, so this is basically can fit in my hand. I put it in my pocket. And I have always one sketchbook with me and a pencil. Just do that. And then everywhere you go, just if you have the opportunity, you wait for something, just draw. People at the beach. It was pretty warm actually. It was in September, the end of September. Almost October, and it was still like 20 degrees. People were going into the beach. I like this shape actually. I drew this guy, this older guy. He had a very strong rib cage. This is actually Dong Ho. If you don't know who he is, he's an amazing artist. I also met him at THU, and I actually drew him with brush pen at THU when he was sitting there. This is a drawing I copied from Kim Young-ji, just trying to learn his mark making and then trying to replicate it. Oh, I got so angry that day. Brush pen sucks, yeah. More stuff from imagination. Yeah, just thinking about the story. And imagining, I tested myself. Can I draw a car from imagination, actually? In different positions. It's a good practice. I can definitely recommend this. And if you have trouble with the perspective, draw a box around it. Same for the human figure also. It's from imagination. I basically started then to practice to draw every day at least 1 page, and this is also a good rule of thumb if you want to get a sketchbook finished basically, or you want to get done with a sketchbook, because you can see like there's a lot of pages here, I started this in August and I finished it in October. So 2 months. So 8 to 10 weeks. Just by drawing every day. And I mean, I'm not this type of person who draws these super pretty sketchbook, and I don't want to judge or anything. I don't want this to sound any offending or anything. I just want to say I'm not that person who's taking stickers and gluing it in the sketchbook, or I'm not like making it an illustration book. For me, a sketchbook is a sketchbook to sketch and to get ideas down, you know? And I do a lot of ugly drawings where I challenge myself. You know, it's for me, it's about the act of drawing. And I think this will never change, but I'm super happy about it because I accept this, and that's the best way to live with this. Drawing from sight in Berlin in the park with brush pen, this was freaking challenging. So if you draw people, this is also something I've learned. The amount of how far you are away really does matter to how much you see. And sometimes I want to sit very far away because I don't want them to see that I'm drawing them, because then they start to act weird. But if you're too far away, you will see some information just barely, you know. So yeah, it's about getting the right distance, like a profi killer. Sitting in my bed, drawing myself. How you say, this is the translation for passion. That's also why I wrote passion here. So passion in terms of dedicating myself to learning ink, but also I started to learn Korean after THU. Also a good trick if the full body is so hard for you, separate it in small parts. More stuff from imagination. Oh, I actually really like this one. I drew myself in my living room. Just draw everything I see. I just started to enjoy the medium ink much more. I think these moments are so precious when you can draw them, because when I come back to this drawing, I exactly know how I feel in that moment. And this is much stronger than a photograph, you know, because I'm really remembering when I was drawing that, how I felt, how relaxed I was. And it was a really good day. There was also another question on Instagram by Garrett Sketches. What's your favorite sketchbook? My 2 favorite sketchbooks at the moment is this one and this one. And if you want to see the sketchbook video to that, just click here. All right? Thanks for joining. Take care and see you soon. Ciao, ciao.